Welcome, family, to another edition of Stranger Thinking Media, where we address the problems of a modern world. And there's a lot of them. So let's see what we can see. And we'll get into today's topic. We got an awesome video for you today. Let's red pill the rapture. I know everybody knows what that is. So let's talk about it. So the topic's covered: 2 women, judgment, and the return of the king. Welcome to our channel. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell and enjoy the show. I'm sure you'll learn something here, because that's what we do. We go outside the norm and bring it to you. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 37, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And knew not until the flood came and took them all away. They were taken all away by the flood. 2 women. Now we can get into this, and we're going to kind of try to break down the narrative. I know what you've all been taught, but the question is, where does this doctrine come from, and where is it taking us? So let's read Matthew chapter 24, because that's where it all begins. Verse 38, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall 2 be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, and one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. So when we read this, if you look at the concept of the rapture, to be taken is a good thing, but that's not what this is saying. At the time of Noah, because the end times will be like in the days of Noah, the ones that were taken away were the wicked. And those who were left were Noah and his family, the righteous. So when we start talking about the rapture, what are we really saying? I mean, you got to understand that there is a kingdom that is diametrically opposed to the establishment of the kingdom on this earth. The kingdom of Israel, with the king of Israel, who is Hamashiach, colloquially called Jesus the Christ, whose actual name is Yahusha Hamashiach, which means Yahweh saves. And so if you get into other books outside of the 66 books of the actual Bible just means book. And that was thrown together at the Council, I believe, of Nicaea, and canonized. And what does it mean to be canonized? Well, it means that the Romans had decided that they were going to create a state religion, and they were very much impressed. The Romans were military people. They were impressed at the Judeans, who were willing to die for what they believed in. And they believed in this religion and this God and this, this new concept, this Messiah, this coming king. And these people fought to the death to protect their culture. I don't think the Romans, I get it, they ran into people that were willing to fight and die, but these people were willing to fight and die over a concept, an ethereal concept in the minds of the Romans, and they were impressed by it. So how better to unify the Roman Empire than to adopt this culture into the Roman culture and religious belief, because the Romans believed in Zoroastrianism. We touched on that in other videos. They believed in Mithraism. We touched on that in other videos. And they're all similar because they all come out of Babylon, and Babylon basically mimicked mimicked Yahweh's, meaning God, mimicked his system. But they used brick for stone, meaning they changed some things around and made a man-made stone, man-made religion, that is. That in Babel means confusion. Not to say that there is no God and there is no religion, but to mimic it and twist it so that it's similar. So that being said, you have concepts now embedded into the Roman system of thought, mingled with the Hebrew frame of thought, and they come out with a religion, a universal religion. Hopefully, the entire empire will bow down to that religion. In fact, they did. They started with simply promoting people to high office if they became Christian. This newly formed state religion. But after a while, it became you're a Christian or you get burned at the stake kind of thing, you know. So, anyways, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but keep that in mind. So there's this concept of Trinity. There's this concept of rapture. All sorts of good things that come out of these Babylonian mystery religions. And but if you're saying you follow the God of Abraham, the Elohim of Abraham, well, that's just not in that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's continue on. It's some interesting stuff we'll get into. Genesis chapter 6, verse 13. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Or that word earth is really should have been translated land, the physical land. And so we talk about judgment, still in Genesis chapter 6. And of course, Genesis chapter 6 is all about Noah, not, the time of the flood and giants and Nephilim. And I've done videos on that too. So as amazing as it may sound, there is a strange bloodline, and the Bible talks about it, or scriptures talk about it as the serpent seed. And there are people who, again, there's a kingdom at war with the kingdom of light, and they will twist things. They won't say, oh, no, that's an out-and-out lie. They'll twist it to their advantage. So there are people who say, no, there is no serpent seed. Yes, there is a serpent seed. And the Messiah, Hamashiach, said when he was talking to the Pharisees, ye are of your father the devil. Father the devil. And you could write that off as just meaning in a spiritual sense, you follow the devil. But is it also a physical sense? Do you have the DNA of the serpent? And how could you possibly have the DNA of the serpent? Well, we talk about that in other videos. I wish everybody would just go back and watch my earliest videos, because I think I go into that in pretty good detail, but I know I was just starting out, so my videos weren't that clear, that, viscerally straining, they weren't that good. I think I'm a little better at making videos now. But as you can see, there is a line of the serpent seed. And, you can look at it and say, well, how is it? I thought all that was destroyed in the flood. Yes, the Nephilim, the giants, the sons of God, the sons of the Watchers were destroyed. But they were given in marriage and marrying and mingling. And the Most High chose Noah because he was perfect in his generations, right? Genes. The Nephilim bloodline had not penetrated his bloodline, meaning nobody in his bloodline had commingled with the Nephilim. And so he was chosen. Now, remember, he was married, and his 3 sons, they were married. Now, the question is, somebody's wife had that gene. And we know this because the Rephaim, right, the Anakim, were still around at the time of, say, King David and at the time of Joshua, right? Because they had to drive them out. I mean, Goliath and his 4 brothers were, descendants of the Rephaim. What does that mean? Did the Nephilim survive the flood? No, but the genetics did. I mean, it's simple. I mean, we're trying to read too much into people are coming up with weird concepts like, oh no, they went underwater. They're underwater Nephilim. I'm like, what the heck? So no, the genetics, the DNA, it's like any other DNA. It still exists, and if you get into it and study human DNA today, yes, there's a percentage of people on this earth who have fairly high concentration of what we call Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA. And then there's other people on this earth that show almost no Neanderthal or Denisovan DNA. These are similar to human DNA. Why? Because it commingled. It's similar and can reproduce with human DNA. So when they say the Neanderthal and Denisovan went extinct, did they really, or did they just mix with human DNA? And you see it. That's exactly what happened, because there are human beings that have, I think it's up to 6% Neanderthal DNA. And then there are human beings that have no Neanderthal DNA. So two separate species, essentially. How'd that happen? Well, here in the book, in Genesis 6 and in the book of Enoch, Jubilees, Jasher, they talk about what happened. And you had these so-called experts saying, oh, it didn't mean that, it didn't mean this. No, angels didn't procreate with human women. You cannot read the book of Enoch and it tells you point blank. So they come up with these weird concepts. So, oh no, they meant the sons of Seth, or the sons of Cain, or whatever. No, it says the angels. In order for you to work your way around it, makes no sense whatsoever. Why would these, if it was another group of humans, why would these offspring come out as giants and monsters? Come on, people. It's in the scriptures. And so, at these councils, they said, no, we don't want this book in there. We don't want that book in there. Why? Because it tells the truth. And the serpent seed would want to hide the fact that there's a serpent seed. Yes, there is. So anyway, the Messiah confirmed that to me, because he called the Pharisees. He said, ye are of your father, the devil. And you could spiritualize it away and say he just meant that they were following after the doctrines of devils. And that could be simply the case, but it could be more. And if you know who the Pharisees were, yeah, that's for another whole video. That's another whole video. So by calling the Pharisees, saying that they are of their father, the devil, means more than just a spiritual thing. Anyways, we shall continue. So Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, there were giants, Nephilim, in the earth in those days. And also after that, they've left a whole lot of stuff out, but they're telling you there were these Nephilim, these giants. When the sons of Elohim came in unto daughters of men. Seems pretty plain there, but even if you wanted to refute that, I got about 3-4 other books that will say, no, they're talking about angels. And the term sons of God is used several times throughout the Bible to refer to angels. So, no, they're talking about angels procreating with human women. And they bear children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Well, there's another version taken from the Dead Sea Scrolls. It doesn't say men of renown. It says men of Hashem. Be careful, people, who you're praying to. You should be praying to Yahweh Elohim. Yahweh Elohim. My Elohim, right? And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. I mean, can't catch a break here. So there's a lot to this, a lot going on, and we want to get clarity on this, not wallow in the same old, um, you know, fallacies and error that has crept into doctrines. And when I go online, I see so much error, so many things that I can't tell sometimes if they are purposely are they ministers of Satan that they are purposely trying to deceive people, or are they just deceive themselves? But I mean, I see some crazy doctrine out there. I saw one lady, some high priestess lady, she looks like a tarot card reader type, you know. I just was listening to her. She was saying that no, basically, Yahweh is the devil. Well, that's a Gnostic kind of belief system. And that's all confusion too. But, I can't even say the Gnostics are more confused than other people, because as crazy as that doctrine may sound, there's other doctrine that's just as crazy, and we just swallow it down whole without even chewing on it. And so there's a lot of deception out there. I don't expect this message to, my message to you, and when I say my message, the way I explain scriptures is not, is not going to endear me to either or any side, because I'm not coming at you with some existing man-made doctrine that's been rammed down your throat because, the powers that be, might makes right. If you have the might, you can force the people to believe anything you want. What I'm telling you is what these scriptures say. And like I said, I'm not perfect. I learn every day. But what I'm saying is there are certain things that are just obvious, and I sometimes don't see how people can't see it. Yet they keep repeating these same old doctrines which have no basis. They keep doing the same things which have no basis. Or some charismatic guy. I'm not charismatic. I just tell it as it is. Or if you're in some group, that actually, if you're in the wrong group, really, if you're in any group, there's group think. And to stay in that group, you have to toe the line. Whatever they come up with, you got to be part of it. Or they'll kick you out because you're a troublemaker or something. And you might be the one that's right. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, there's a place for I'll say groups, And the scripture does say, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. But usually there's a dynamic. It's never really static. And I've seen it. I've been around a long time. I've seen it where the people who start a movement, I'll call it that, just so you understand where I'm coming from, they will have some understanding that just convicts them, and they go all in and they preach that, and people start maybe listening, and that movement will grow. But to think that it's static, meaning, okay, you figured it all out, and so you don't have to learn anymore, and whatever you're telling people is exactly correct, 100%. Well, what happens invariably is as time goes on, somebody gets some revelation in that group, right? And then they go, oh, I was reading the other day and blah, 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 blah. And then everybody starts looking at them like, uh-oh, we have a rebel, So when it gets to that point where you're not willing to hear somebody out, and then you're just ready to label somebody as a rebel, that means you're done. You're stale. It means you're not learning anymore, because anybody who comes out with some new rebel, and test it, actually sit down and test it. Don't just, this guy's crazy, he's a troublemaker. No, don't do that. But that's what usually happens. And so it'll go, it's almost like Ichabod, the glory has departed. when a group gets to that point where sound doctrine can't be discerned, and they're just going to hold on to what they figured out 20 years ago, and it might be right what they figured out 20 years ago, but as time goes on, more stuff is revealed. I see it every day. So as time goes on, and once someone can prove something, and yet people just close their ears and eyes to it, like, I'm not listening because my pastor, he would be mad at me if I listened to that. If it gets like that, you're dying spiritually. You're in a stale. You're stale, and just that's it. But then those people go on, and the same thing happens again. They form groups and expand on that knowledge, and some knowledge continues, some die off. Whether their new doctrine, I don't call it new doctrine, but their new understanding, if the Most High says, yep, it's time for that understanding to get out there, he'll expand that group or make that group grow. Anyways, I'm just saying, my difficulty is I'm not going along with groups, and I'm not going along with the old standards, when they talk about Trinity, Rapture, all this stuff. I'm like, well, no, I looked into that, and I'm pretty in my spirit, I'm convicted that no, that's not the case. And the only thing I can do here on this platform is try to state my case. And it's not really my case. You basically take it or leave it, believe it or don't. I'm not here to make money. I have the little, what do you call it, the donation things in there. That's just a YouTube thing. When you hit a certain level, hey, go ahead and do this. Okay, click. But I don't need any of that. I'm just trying to get information out there. If you want to hear it or you want to hear more, you continue listening. If you don't, I mean, I get it. It is what it is. But what I won't do, and I've been faced with this, oh, do you want your channel to grow? Sure I do. I want more people to hear what I'm saying. But do I want to change my message? Basically, I'm riding the fence. I'm telling everybody what I'm thinking, right? Basically. And, you get little messages back. I don't know if it's from YouTube or whatever, but you get little messages saying, hey, maybe you need to pick a side. I'm like, well, I have picked a side. And it's just men don't want to hear it, whatever. So I'm not joining any groups. I'm not joining any religions. My message is completely a-religious, if I think that's a word. But I'm just saying, I read the scriptures and I apply, in a sense, scientific method. It's for something to be right, it's kind of got to hold in every case. It's got to make sense no matter where you are, what you're reading. There's certain doctrines that make sense over here, but by the time you get over here, it makes zero sense. That's how I know there's a problem. But when you figure something out, or when the understanding is given to you, it will hold in every place. And it's amazing. So once you find something that holds in every situation, then you know. And that's, in science, we say that's now it's no longer a theory, it's law. And what happens when you disregard the law of gravity? You fall down and go splat. So once something is a law, then you adhere to it because it will only guide you. Anyway, let's continue. Again, Genesis 6, chapter 11, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. So let's continue. Then we get to Genesis chapter 7, verse 21. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life. of all that was in the dry land died, and every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven. And they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, because he was perfect in his generations, and they that were with him in the ark. So everybody else is taken away by the flood. Do you really want to be taken? You know, Hollywood puts out movies, Taken and whatever, there's been so many of them. But Taken is not a good thing, and we're going to go into that, It's something that you might not want to happen to you. Now let's go into the apocryphal writings. I know there's some out there who are like, oh, it's not canonized. I'm like, man, Esdras, who is Ezra, has already been given credence in the 66 books of the Bible. He was a prophet. His prophecies, he passed the test for a prophet because his prophecies come true. So we'll go to 2nd Esdras chapter 13, verse 3. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. I wonder who that man could be. All things are trembling under him. The creation is responding to him. The return of the king. Yes, let's get into that one. And we're still in 2nd Esdras chapter 13. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, sounds like something out of Revelation. All they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number. That means like most of the people on the planet was like, we got to fight this guy. Yeah, that sounds par for the course. From the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Yes, the man that came out of the sea. So everybody on the planet is like, we have to stop this guy, whoever this guy is. But let's see what happens to those who go against this guy that comes up out of the sea. Not a beast that comes out of the sea, a man that comes up out of the sea. This should be interesting. Still in 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 10. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. You notice the dragon tries to mimic that. I find it interesting that dragons breathe fire, but here they're talking about Hamashiach at the return of the king, breathing fire and sparks and tempest. He has no sword at his side. His weapon is in his mouth. That means he's going to speak it, and the universe will respond. I mean, and yet all of humanity will be set against him. Wide is the road that leads us to destruction, and narrow is the way. Esdras also said, this world was made for many, but the world to come is made for few. So this tells you, whatever the crowd is doing, you might want to think that one through. There's an old saying: if everybody's doing the same thing, or if everybody's thinking the same thing, then nobody's thinking. That's just my nature. I had a good friend of mine said, "You always were a rebel." I'm like, I'm not a rebel. I just don't go along with dumb stuff. If I see it and it's just dumb, I'm not going to go along with it just because it makes you happy, just because you want to fit in. I mean, I see things going on in this world right now, and I go, oh man. People, for instance, people no longer have a healthy fear of nuclear war. Now, people my age, we do. We remember the Cold War. And I look at these younger people, and they're all gung-ho. Yeah, let's go to war. Let's do this. I'm looking at them like, You know, the bombs they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were firecrackers. The bombs they got now are 1,000 times more powerful than what they dropped on those two cities. 1,000, not 10 times, not 100 times, 1,000 times more powerful. And you know those two little bombs, which seemed like big bombs at the time, right? Leveled two cities. Two industrial cities got leveled by firecracker bombs, right? But here today we have hydrogen, fusion, not fission bombs, fusion bombs that replicate the sun. Now, you guys need to understand when you go down that path of war now, and I'm not going to get all into it because I don't want to get blocked or whatever, but you guys have to understand there are decisions you're going to make that, there are decisions that make sense, and then there are decisions that don't make sense. I'm at a point now where I go, if we make the insane choice, well, that's just Yahweh saying, that's him blocking our minds on a mass schedule or on a mass, he's massively blocking common sense across the globe to propel us into this. Nothing happens unless Yahweh, Father Yahweh, allows it. So if we don't have the sense to pull back off the brink of certain things and we nuke ourselves into oblivion, now that's just prophecy being fulfilled at that point. Now you can choose life or you could choose unaliving, right? Joshua chose life, remember? As for me and my house, we choose life, right? So you will have that choice. But something tells me, and as I look around, as the older generation starts passing on, the ones that remember certain things, like the Cold War and all the drills where they made us in elementary school and whatnot, hide in the fallout shelters and under desks and all. Yeah, there was a healthy fear. And the delivery systems back then were nowhere near as efficient as the delivery systems today. You could put them on hypersonics. You can't shoot down a hypersonic missile. At least with the ICBMs, they took a parabolic course up into the stratosphere, basically into the stratosphere. You can track it, and you can possibly take it out. Hypersonic missile, you can't take out. It's moving faster than a bullet. You know what I'm saying? With a nuclear warhead on it. Come on. And I'm not going to say any more on it, but cooler heads will have to prevail for the current system to sustain itself. Now, the question is, at some point, although the Most High Yahweh says he will never flood the earth, he does say the next purge will be by fire. Well, yeah, that would make sense then. That's why I don't have much hope for human beings figuring this thing out. The purge will be by fire, and there will be sparks and tempests. So let's see what this all means. Still in second Esdras. When I discovered that, it's been a while ago, but this book is just incredible. I can't explain it. If you haven't read it, you really need to read it. It's got some awesome knowledge, awesome prophecies in it. And it lines up really well with Daniel. And I'm trying to figure out if I know I heard this from I don't know, but is Ezra actually brothers with Daniel or something? Somebody said that somewhere, and I was trying to remember. I was trying to look for that information. But anyway, their prophecies connect. And in verse 11, and they were all mixed together. The blast of fire, the flaming breath. This is all in Revelations, right? And the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight. He uttered this out of his mouth and it fell with violence upon those who were prepared to fight fire, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived. It was as if a nuclear weapon went off, and where you saw a big crowd of people clamoring and calling for war, all of a sudden, boom, nothing but dust and the smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Man, that just sounds familiar. When I looked at what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the flash was so brilliant that it vaporized people, and you could see literally, it's like an X-ray. You could see their silhouettes of people on, like, say, a brick wall that didn't get knocked down. It was as if they were photoed, and their silhouettes were on the wall. It's almost like a mural of people being vaporized, but it looks like, silhouettes on a wall. And those people were lucky because they were at, like, near ground zero. That's probably where you probably don't want to run away. You probably want to be under it when it lands, because you won't know what hit you. And the other thing might be a lingering radiation poisoning kind of deal. And I've actually seen what that looks like. So you don't want that. So we'll continue here. Second Esdras chapter 13, verse 16. For as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. For they that were not left were in heaviness. So, I mean, this is going against the grain, isn't it? For as I conceive in my mind, in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall not be left, or woe unto them that shall be left in those days. So he's saying, woe unto them that shall be left. Yeah, it's going to be rough for those who are left. And much more woe unto them that are not left behind. Meaning, if you're taken away by the fire, just like those evil, wicked were taken away by the flood. So this is like Yah kept his word. There's not going to be another flood of water, but there will be a flood of fire. That's the second purge. So, think that through. And does this line up at all with the thought of a rapture? Escaping judgment. That's why, Christians today who believe in this rapture thing, they don't even prepare for hard times. They go, nope, I'm going to be raptured out of here. Yep, okay. At best, the Most High will protect you. There's scriptures in the book of the Revelation of Jesus Christ that say that the dragon will send out a flood after the Kodashim, meaning the saints. But the earth will open up and swallow the flood. Flood, the word flood is also used of troops being sent. So that could be, just a metaphoric language there, an actual, the troops being sicked on the Kodashim. But something intervenes and swallows them up or stops them from destroying the Kodashim. But it doesn't say the Kodashim, the saints, will be, spared any of this hard times. That's pie in the sky. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be raptured out of here before all that happens. No. Scripture is funny because one of the things, he says, if blessed is he who's persecuted for my name's sake. Persecution is almost like, I don't want to call it a badge of honor, but like, you're doing something right when they start coming after you for saying the truth. And if you say enough truth, yeah, they'll come after you. Once it starts affecting their bottom line or whatever, they will come after you. So, don't expect to be able to skate through this by some rapture. And I know that's something everybody wants to believe, that when that time comes, you won't have to face I like that movie, The Book of Eli, because there's a certain realism to that. Like, yeah, here God's chosen, yet they had to go through this thing, but he preserved them. And it's funny because the worse things get, the more he has to move. And so you would see more and more of his power being displayed, say, through miracles, what we call miracles. Because when it gets beyond the point where they can survive, there's nothing they can do, then in order for the Most High to sustain his Kodashim, he has to actually intervene. So we'll start seeing some more of that stuff. So just keep in mind, things will get hairy for everybody. But, rejoice. When you see those signs, he's on his way. 2 Esdras chapter 13, he that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith toward the Almighty. And I thank you all for chiming in. We're going to call it a day on this video. Farewell. I love you all so much, and thank you so much for continually supporting my content. If you can handle it. Some people cannot handle the truth. I saw that in a movie, didn't I? So subscribe and turn on the notification bell and share this with your friends and family. I'm sure they find it interesting as well. I'm very excited to continue this journey with you, and thank you all for joining in. And I very much appreciate you all, and shout out to the channel members. And may everyone have a beautiful and blessed day who's in the body of Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach. And we'll see you on the next video. Shalom, shalom, shalom.